Hi, this is Lori with Dockery's Dream Dolls. In this video, we are going to be weighing, stuffing, and assembling the limbs of the doll to the body. For this procedure, what you're going to need is you're going to need the Reborn Doll First Aid Kit, and I will again put a link down below so you can get one if you need one. We're going to need a funnel. If you don't have a funnel, you can use a paper and roll it up and use that as a funnel. You're going to need a heavy-duty file. This will be to make sure that the zip ties don't leave any sharp edges. Some scissors and some fingernail clippers. And can I think of anything else? Oh yes, you'll be needing a pair of tights for the weighing material for inside the body. So I have taken the body that we disassembled from the doll in the earlier video, and it's been all washed now. It's nice and clean. It doesn't smell like towels or an old lady anymore. And then I also have the limbs. So what we're going to need from the Reborn Doll Repair Kit today is going to be the polyfill, the fine glass beads, and 4 of the zip ties. The last one is for the head. Now, for a doll like this one, because we had to remove all of the stuffing, and so we are essentially starting from scratch. We're not just adding stuffing to stuffing that's fine, that's already there, which would be a typical repair. You may need additional polyfill. So what you can do is either you can buy a bag of polyfill, which I believe usually comes in 16 ounces. They're ginormous though. If you find that you don't need that much and you don't want to have that hanging around for 50 years, you can order a add-on to your Reborn Doll First Aid Kit and just order additional polyfill. You may also run into that issue with the fine glass beads. Now, weighing a doll is a preference. It depends on what the doll is for. If it's a reborn doll, a lot of people have different preferences, and I would say somewhere between 3 pounds all the way up to, I've seen people with reborns that are 10 pounds. So depending on what your preference is, you may need additional fine glass beads, and again, you can order that as an add-on to your Reborn Doll First Aid Kit. So now that we've got the items and materials together that we need, we're going to go ahead and get started. So with this one, let's see if I can make it so I can see what we're doing here. For this one, we are going to have an additional step, and for that, I'm going to need this X-Acto knife. Now, if you need to do this with your doll, I recommend you be incredibly careful, take your time, and be slow, and be patient, because anytime you're working around sharp materials and your vinyl, you are at a high risk of not only injuring yourself, but cutting the vinyl, and that is a problem that's typically very difficult to resolve. So I'm going to go ahead and take this and put it in. It's a very thin vinyl that I'm working with in here, so it's really coming out easy. So I'm just going to take that, and what I'm doing is I'm making a hole, because with this one, even though technically she's not a reborn, I do want some weight in her. That'll make her feel nicer when she's being handled, and also it makes it so that when she's being displayed, I think that vinyl dolls with nothing in them, when they're being displayed, don't display as nicely as dolls with a little bit of weight in them, therefore, creating some additional gravity to their poses and their stance. But of course you don't have to, that's a personal preference. And I'm going to do the same thing with the arm. And with this, it's a really thin vinyl, so it's cutting out rather easily. I've had to do this with some that the vinyl's really thick and really difficult to cut. And with that, you just really, really need to take your time and be careful and make sure that you're working with a sharp tool. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take that out. There we go. Now they're out. So now I can access the inside of the limbs. So we're going to start with the weighing materials. And cut the label. Alright, so here we go. Okay, so these are super fine glass beads, and as you see, they kind of look like sand. They're really sparkly, and these are the rounded beads, so there's no chance of them damaging the vinyl. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put the funnel in like this, and with this particular doll, again, she's not a reborn, so my goal here is to make it so that when she is posed, she looks good. And so I am just going to put some weight here in the bottom of her feet. With reborns, I typically go up to the crook here in the knee. Unless I'm doing a preemie, then I go about here. And with this, there's no right or wrong way to do it. So you just kind of have to feel what it is that you're doing as you're doing it and do whatever feels right for you. Try not to spill them all over the place. And so I'm kind of feeling it, and I think that's going to be too heavy. So I'm going to go ahead and pour some back in here. And I like that. Just want something that's kind of stable, and that's good. I like that. Alright, so then once you get the glass beads in a length, the next step is to fill it with polyfill. And the goal and the purpose with using the polyfill in the limbs is just to make sure that the fine glass beads aren't in there shaking around, because that's a little corny. And I'm going to go ahead and use a chopstick to kind of help me get it down in there. And it's also to make sure that the weighing material stays in the limb and doesn't come loose. So you just want to feel and you want to shake. You don't want to hear any of that weighing material shaking around in there. We're not making a rattle. We're making a doll. Okay, and then I'm going to stuff some more in here. And now if this was a reborn, I would be using either plugs, or what I do is I use high heat hot glue, and I put it in here, and that just makes sure that the stuffing material doesn't come out as the doll is being handled and such. But this one, number one, is not a Reborn, and also because it's got a lip here from where I cut out the middle, this is going to be sufficient for what it is that I need. So I'm going to leave that like that. And there will probably be some people saying, no, you don't use hot glue. That's not how you do it. This is art. There's no rules. I'm not using dirty hot glue. And the two materials work well together. If the hot glue custom-made plug needs to be removed, it can be removed easily, and it does the job, and it does the job very well, and maintains the security of the stuffing. So that's what I do, and if you don't like it, don't do it. There we go. And I want them to feel about the same. I think that's still a little bit too heavy. Still a little bit too heavy. Okay, I like that. Stuff it in there. Shake it around. No rattling, so we're good to fill it up the rest of the way. Alright, that is fantastic. So we've got the two legs done. We're going to move on to the arms, and with the arms my goal is the same, is I just want there to be enough weight there so that you can see that gravity is doing its job, and to make sure that when she's posed it just looks more natural, in my opinion. And there we go. A little bit too much. Okay, I like that. Look at how cute these little hands are. Like the chubbiness and the roundness and the little dimples here in the knuckles. Just cute. Stuff that in there. And again, same goal with the stuffing, is just to make sure that the weighing material doesn't rattle, and to make sure that it stays where we've put it and does not come out of the limb. And it looks like I've got a good lip on this one too, so I won't need to make a custom doll plug with my hot glue. Okay, there's that on. Same thing with this one. Oh, I'm about ready to put it in there without the funnel. That would take too much talent, that in which I do not have. Okay, and then again what I'm going to do is kind of grab this one, and I want them to feel similar. Sometimes I use my scale and I weigh them, but most of the time I do it by feel, because the whole purpose of the weight is the way it feels, not so much about, you know, what it actually is. Yep, I like that. Well, maybe not. Yeah, I think I like that. So here we go. I think that's going to be too much. You don't want to stuff it too tight because then it starts bulging, and especially if you're dealing with a Reborn or a softer vinyl, it makes it, this one's a hard vinyl, so that's not that big of a deal here. Um, but you don't want to, if it's a softer vinyl or a Reborn, you don't want to stuff it so tight that, you know, it doesn't feel as squishy as the vinyl allows. So now we've got the limbs prepared and they are ready. So for this next step, I'm going to get the polyfill and the weighing materials out of the way.